guys, welcome back on Behind the Product. Today we are with Matt Britton, founder and CEO of Suzy. Matt is a multi-entrepreneur that actually started his career in marketing. He used to run Mr. Youth, now it's known as MRI, which was like a social media, and still is because it still exists, a social media agency that actually got acquired by Publicis in 2011, something like that. And later on, Matt funded Suzy, a market research platform. So basically what Suzy is doing is like, as a brand, you can access Suzy, access to a panel of users and get real-time qualitative and quantitative feedback about a new product you want to launch, a new offer, a new service, anything you want, you can get feedback very early on in your journey. So it's very valuable for a brand that wants to launch a product and be sure of like what the market wants. The idea of Suzy actually started in 2002, I think, for Matt, and he kept thinking about it, he built it, and now Suzy is used by hundreds of big brands such as Nestle, Coca-Cola, Procter Gamble, and many others, you know. All the big fish you can think of, they use Suzy. It's been quite a journey for Matt, so let's go ahead and welcome him.
I'm Matt Britton. I'm founder and CEO of Suzy. Suzy is a market research software platform used by leading enterprises around the world. It essentially enables companies to tap into consumers for instant on-demand feedback to help drive any decision they're making. Suzy is powered by a panel of over 1 million US consumers that are on an always-on gamified application. Those consumers are incentivized for answering questions, and Suzy sits on top of this panel and really allows companies during the workday, when they're trying to make any decision, target consumers that matter, get their feedback to help make the decisions that will help set their business up for success.
Okay, so basically like you have like a kind of like a crowdsourcing app that like tons of like millions of US consumer are using, and from that you can pull from that some data for your customer,
right?
That try to understand the market they are in. Is that right?
Yeah. And when you say pull data, it's really having consumers share their opinions and thoughts. So they're actually asked questions. What is your favorite brand of soft drink? What car do you drive? What do you think about X brand or X product? How much would you pay for something? And in aggregate, those individual pieces of feedback create data that helps our customers make business decisions.
Okay. So it's basically like a market research platform.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. And how did you come up with that idea?
So the idea behind Suzy dates way back to 2002. In 2002, I founded a marketing services business called Mr. Youth. Mr. Youth was built to help brands target teens and college students with on-campus events and promotional activity. In 2004, we were one of the first agencies to ever work with Facebook, right when it was started, because we were on college campuses marketing to college students, and that's where Facebook was invented and first took off on US college campuses. And it started a long journey for our company to pivot from just being a college or youth marketing agency to becoming a social media marketing agency. In 2008, we rebranded as MRY and became one of the first social media agencies of record for companies like Microsoft and P&G and Coca-Cola. Along the way, we have built a piece of software called CrowdTap to basically help our clients manage and measure brand and on-campus ambassadors. We started to get a lot of interest from third-party publishers and agencies to license that software. So I spun out CrowdTap into its own company and helped them raise their Series A way back in 2011. I went on to sell the agency to the Publicis Group based in Paris. And then after I left Publicis, the board of CrowdTap, which I was on, asked me to come back and join as CEO. And that was at the end of 2016. At that point, the CrowdTap business had evolved, but it also kind of hit some struggles. They had built a network of over 1 million US consumers who were being incentivized to essentially create and share content on behalf of brands. So, if you were a diaper brand, you would target moms with babies and say, take a picture of your baby and our product and share it on, social media and earn points. That was kind of the CrowdTap business model. And the issue with that business model,
kind of like micro nano influencing.
Exactly. To create content, user generated content. The issue is that Facebook had rolled out the programmatic platform, and there are other ways more efficiently for brands to get into the newsfeed, and they were more focused on paid media versus just organic user generated content. So the business was really struggling, and when I came on board, my first role was to figure out what the strategy was moving forward. And as it turns out, some of the customers of CrowdTap were using it for a different purpose. Instead of them using these 1 million people to create and share content, they were using these people to give them feedback to help drive decisions. And a light bulb went off my head. This is the future of the business. This is where we need to take it. So basically I kept the CrowdTap brand, which still exists today, but it's just, that's the consumer brand. But I built a new platform that sits on top of CrowdTap called Suzy. And Suzy is essentially a different way for customers to use this highly engaged audience. And again, instead of getting these consumers to create and share content, it was to get consumer feedback. And we launched Suzy in March of 2018, and kind of the rest is history, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I really love, to understand like how was the first version that you launched on the market of people that launch product. Can you tell us a bit how was like Suzy's first version?
So basically we didn't have a lot of time to make Suzy work. When I joined CrowdTap at the end of 2016, the company was running out of money and had a lot of debt, and I had to, part ways with a lot of employees who just I couldn't afford. And we didn't have as much time as traditional venture funded companies do to launch, because the CrowdTap, the legacy business, had already run through all the venture funding. So there was already $15 million raised on the cap table. So I needed to create real value before I could raise the next round. And in order to do that, I had to launch a new product, but we had limited capital to do it. So at first, what we did is we essentially just reskinned the original business model, the original CrowdTap micro influencer platform. We reskinned it as an insights platform, made it purple, called it Suzy, but it had very limited functionality because it wasn't really built for the ground up for the purpose of consumer insights. And, we launched it South by Southwest in March 2018, and it was okay. But customers were already starting to call out, well, it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that, because we are entering a very competitive space with companies like Qualtrics and SurveyMonkey in it. So we decided, that summer that we were going to rebuild and launch a completely new platform that was built just for the purpose of consumer insights. And we launched it in June 2018 . But the issue is
with which capital did you build that platform? You said like
basically our existing investor, Foundry Group, gave us about a $5 million runway to basically do the pivot. Like they were not doing well in that investment when I joined. They had already put $10 million into it, but they trusted me. I had a great relationship with them. I sat on the board with the partner, Seth Levine, and he believed in me and said, okay, we'll give you a chance. So it was very limited capital to launch it with, because we also had to service a lot of debt in the business that was already taken on before I joined. And we decided to relaunch this new platform. The issue is we had to connect data from the old platform and this new platform we built, and the product just didn't work. And from June to September of 2018, it was the hardest time in my career, because we were starting to get some momentum coming out of South by Southwest with these customers, and we were trying to sell new customers, and literally 70 to 80% of the time, the product wouldn't work. It would just spin, or it would crash, or, the data wouldn't come back. And it was very nerve wracking. And I had to keep the sales team's heads up saying, okay. And finally, around mid-September, we finally got to a point where the platform was stable, and we had to really crank and deliver in the fourth quarter, because we were running out of money. And by the end of 2018, we needed to have an outside round. The existing investor, they had kind of done all they can. They needed, we need to get outside money. And we went to the market at the end of 2018, and we got rejected by about 80 venture capitalists. Nobody would fund us. And finally, what we were able to do is go to this group called North Atlantic Capital, and they essentially gave us a debt facility, which allowed us to restructure the old debt and basically add additional capital. It was an interest only facility, so we didn't have to pay back principal. So the debt servicing cost dropped by a couple $1 million, and we also were able to get debt that was about $3 million more than we currently had. So we were able to add $3 million to the balance sheet. So between the additional couple $1 million and reducing the debt servicing, we had another $5 to $6 million for 2019 to basically continue to build the business, so we can go out to the market again at the end of 2019. And that's what we did. We went out in 2019. We again got rejected by about 75 to 80 VCs, but we got one, Bertelsmann's group, BDMI, to kind of believe in us and price the round. And then, when you get somebody that priced around, it's a lot easier to get follow-on investors.
Yeah, sure.
So we were able to pull together about 10, 12 million bucks for 2020. 2020, the pandemic hit, and ended up being a really net positive for our business because we do online market research, and the notion of wanting to know what consumers are thinking and feeling was heightened during the pandemic, and we just came out of the gates on fire. And by the middle of 2020, had another investor that wanted to pile on to that round we had just raised. So then finally we were really well capitalized, and we just had an amazing year in 2020. Went out to the markets again to raise our Series D at the end of 2020, and then this past summer closed our Series D round for $50 million. And now the company is very well funded. We have enough capital to last us until 2023. The business is accelerating its growth, and we got I don't want to say we got out of the woods, but we got to a point where now the business has its eyes on 100 million in annual recurring revenue, literally 2 years ago we had enough cash to maybe fund 1 month of payroll. So things change really quickly, and it's just about not giving up and believing in what you're doing and persevering, and that's what we were able to do.
Yeah. And I want to go back to the point where you are going in. So it's in 2018, summer 2018, when you are going on the market and with your sales team, selling the product was not working. How did you manage that? Having the guts to go on the market with a product that is shaky, that is not working,
right?
And keep continuing, and keep building that momentum with the customer, with your sales team, with everyone, that you're gonna have a product that work one day. How did you build that trust with everyone on the market?
I mean, I was in the trenches with them. I was selling with them. And I remember I would be on Slack with somebody who was at our office, and I was like, is it working? Is it working? Because the person that was doing the demo was sitting right next to me, and I would hit him in the leg if we couldn't do the demo. Sometimes no, don't demo. And then we just wouldn't demo it. So we just kind of, winged it, frankly. And we believed that we would get it fixed eventually. And we really didn't have a choice.
What made you believe that you could get it fixed?
Because I believed in my team. I brought a chief product officer who had worked with me at my agency for the last 10 years prior. And I just knew they needed time to figure it out, and I knew that they were in a tough position because we launched this thing so quickly because we had to. And frankly, I had no other choice but to believe in them. You have to believe in the team. And there were some tough times, and there was some yelling and screaming and 3 a.m. phone conversations and all those things. But we stuck together and we made it work. And today our product has 99.99% uptime. Performance is an issue, but once you solve that, you run into other issues. There's functionality that your customer needs. We've had issues in the past with audience quality. So we've gotten attacked by spam and bots on the audience side. So, people were answering questions that weren't real people, and we had to fix that. So I think, you're always, no matter how big you get, Facebook last month crashed, right? So you're never really quite there, and it's a constant journey. And, we're in a highly competitive market where a lot of our competitors are very well funded as well. So we need to keep innovating and keep pushing the product forward.
Yeah, sure.
And we're unique in that we have a consumer product and a business product in one. Our consumer product, CrowdTap, has to attract and retain consumers. And then we have a business product that needs to be used by enterprises. So that makes our business quite unique as well.
Yeah. So you took that decision of keeping 2 separate brands for the 2 side, if I can say that, the 2 side of the market.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a marketplace that you are doing.
Right. And we thought about renaming it All Suzy, but the problem is that, not a problem, but people like the CrowdTap brand. So the users. So why fix what's broken? And I think it's helped us eliminate some confusion in the marketplace. We don't have people responding to Suzy's Twitter about them not getting their points for answering questions. So we're able to kind of separate the 2 brands, and I think it's worked out well for us. And it also gives us the future to create other consumer brands that can feed into Suzy as well. Around the world, or for different demographics or interest groups.
Yeah. And do you have 2 separate teams, one that manage the CrowdTap and one that manage Suzy? So you really
2 separate heads of product, 2 separate departments. Yeah, there's some synergies across some of the engineering, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
They both connect
because the 2 products speaks together.
The front end is different, design is different. Obviously, the go-to-market is different.
Yeah, sure. Okay, very interesting. Just earlier, you were speaking about the the competitors and the fact that it's a highly competitive market. What's the unfair advantage of Suzy in that market?
Yeah, I mean, so
Compared to your,
Suzy's kind of key differentiators really all rest on the fact that we have our own audience, which gives us sort of a vertically integrated solution. So all of our other competitors, if you want to conduct market research, you either have to bring your own audience, which comes with challenges in that A, you're only talking to your own consumers, so it's like an echo chamber, right? Or
yeah,
B, you have to buy an audience and from a third-party exchange, which is really rife with fraud and poor quality, because these exchanges don't have proper controls because the exchanges are building these large affiliate networks, so distribute it. So with us, we have a vertically integrated solution, almost like the iPhone and the App Store, right? Where basically everything connects and syncs together. And since we
yeah,
have our own
yeah, sure.
audience, we can do things like instant retargeting of the same audience. We can overlay our data with third-party data. And we can use our audience in different ways. For example, we launched last year Suzy Live, which allows our clients to connect quantitative research, like multiple choice questions, to qualitative research, where you can essentially schedule, from cohorts that answer a question a certain way, instant in-depth interviews in a Zoom-like interface. So you can ask consumers why and have 15-minute discussions with them about why they answered things the way they did. So connecting the quant and the qual is something that none of our competitors are able to do because they don't have the ability to go back to that audience and dig deeper because it's not their audience. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of interesting things we can do. And then lastly, it's speed. We have the fastest, market research platform that exists in terms of how quickly we turn around research. Literally happens instantly while you're on a Zoom call.
Okay. Very interesting that fact about like the quantitative and the qualitative data. How did you come up with that idea?
It's really just
Like
listening to our
linking both.
customers. We conduct NPS scores all the time. We have an amazing customer success team, and I think we're very attuned to what our customers want, and what we're delivering well and what we're not. So customer feedback really drives our roadmap. We kind of eat our own dog food in that extent. We're telling our
Yeah.
customers.
That's what I'm about to say. Because you guys are
Yeah,
customer
we
platform
believe in
feedback.
that. We
So
believe in customer
and
centricity, and you figure out what your customers want, then build it for them. Is a pretty simple way to go about business. Now, you need to be innovative, right? So you need to sometimes give them things they don't know they need. But there's a lot of things that they do know they need, and we need to deliver upon that. This kind of table stakes, so to speak.
yeah, what's a bit your process to fit the product development roadmap with like getting some feedback from users? What's your process to get the feedback from users?
Yeah,
How do you select what you're gonna do
sure. It's a great
and
question.
everything? How do you fit that product development roadmap with what you've got with
Direction.
Suzy and
Yeah.
like
So we have
yeah
various stakeholders at the company who help drive that. We have our chief customer officer, and she is basically overseeing both our sales and our customer success team. So she's doing things like NPS studies, and really having a lot of qualitative dialogue with our customers to hear what they're thinking and feeling. We also recently just
yeah
announced a customer advisory board, which helps drive as well. We have a head of market research, and he comes from the enterprise environment, building very sophisticated market research approaches. So he understands sort of like what the best in class approach is, and has that domain expertise for market research. So he's really pushing on that level. And then we have our president who really understands storytelling and simplicity and kind of the new consumer and how they want to use business products. You look at the success of platforms like Slack, and it's because it's so simple to use. So he's pushing on making sure that despite the fact that we need to listen to customers and be sophisticated in market research, it really needs to be a fun and easy product to use. So we have multiple stakeholders that each have a voice in the room. And then from that, we kind of have a scoring system where we map out all the potential, features that we can roll out. And then of course we have our engineering team and our chief product officer who talks about what can be built and how long it's going to take and how expensive it is. That's the fourth voice in the room.
and talking about like customers and things like that, what are your best memories about customers?
My
Like
best
best things
memories.
that come on top of your mind, like cool stories with them and good feedbacks they gave you.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard amazing things from customers about the impact Suzy has on their business. I think lately some of the very cool things is, we recently learned one of our customers was using Suzy to test spots for the upcoming Super Bowl. So, this is an investment of millions of dollars. What TV commercials should they run? And they're trusting Suzy to help decide what creative they're going to be put in front of tens of millions of people. So it really made me understand the power and gravity of what we've built and how important it is to some of these large companies.
Okay. So you guys, like, obviously, because you are like a customer feedback platform, you are very close to your customer. Um, how often do you like get interviewed with your customer? Is that like a process where everyone in the team, engineers, executives, sales, go on like customer interview to understand really what the customer needs? What's a bit
Yeah. So
your
that's
way of
really
doing
driven by
that
our
at Suzy?
Yeah, that's really driven by our customer success team. Our customer success team is really great at what they do. Since we service enterprises, we need to over service our customers. We can't rely on just giving them a username and password and expecting them to use it, because what we're doing is new. A lot of our customers for decades have trusted agencies to do market research for them versus doing it on their own. So we can't rely on them just logging in and doing it on their own. We kind of need to hold their hand throughout this process. And in doing so, we're very close with our customers, and we're very attuned to what their needs are and what types of features that we need to continue to build in the product so it can deliver for them.
Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. And what's the future of your market in 10 years, man? What do you think? Like, obviously, you should have like very good insight about the market research market.
Yeah.
And what do you think it's gonna be? It's gonna look like in 10 years?
So I think market research is going to continue to grow. And the reason being that if you think about the old way of doing business, brands were kind of in control about how they were perceived. They control, if you had a checkbook, you can control the airwaves and you can buy TV spots. And before digital, that was really the only way to get people to know about you at scale. And in that world, the companies were in control of the way a brand was perceived because they were the only ones with a voice, right? And now fast forward to today, 2021, and it's really the consumer that has a bigger voice than the companies do. More people are consuming content from other people every day than they are from other companies. And because consumers are now in control of how brands are perceived, it's becoming increasingly important for companies to let consumers drive the products and services that they build. And that's only going to continue to grow over time. So I think what companies are going to start to realize is it doesn't matter what they think. It doesn't matter, what they think consumers should want. The only thing that's important is what consumers actually want, how they actually feel, how they actually think. And the only way to uncover that is through market research. So I think that the category is going to continue to grow. And I think in terms of Suzy, we are in a legacy industry with incumbents who have not changed their business model for decades. And I think it creates a huge opportunity for companies such as ours to come in and really sort of redefine what it means to be a consumer-centric enterprise.
Yeah, sure. There's this quote that I love from Jeff Bezos says like, "Without customers, there is no company," and it's very very true. Like everything that you say, like companies are like switching to like everyone is becoming like a customer focused and customer centered company. Every company out there needs to be customer focused. If not, like they're gonna die. Like the competition is so hard now with every tools that we have available on the market that everyone
Yeah,
needs to be very focused on their customer.
100%.
So it's
Couldn't
very
agree
true
with
what
that
you're
more.
saying. And
Yeah.
what are your top 3 tips for an entrepreneur that want to launch a new product on the market, new company? The 3 best tips that you'd have liked to give to Matt, like maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago,
Yeah.
before launching Suzy?
I think number one is just make the product simple and easy to use. I think that people are not patient as consumers, and because of that, they're not patient as business users. A lot of times, we think that the consumer is suddenly going to change when they start using a business product versus a consumer product. But in the reality is they're doing it on the same machine. And in this day and age, in this virtual work world, a lot of times they're doing it in the same room, right? The place that you shop is this place that you work. It's a place that you talk to friends, the place that you eat. So I think because of all that, you really need to make a product that's simple and easy to use. I think you need to listen to your customers and driving your product roadmap, which we've talked about. I think that's incredibly important if you're going to be able to deliver something that customers expect. And I think you always need to be evolving the product. You can't stay stagnant because it's a very competitive environment. And I think that in order for you to stay ahead of the curve and ahead of your competitive set, you constantly need to be rolling out new features.
Interesting. Interesting tips. And maybe to close that podcast on a funny touch, let's play a quick game. Can you give us 2 truths and one lie about Suzy journey can be like team related, product related, customer related, anything. Two truths, one lie, but do not tell us what's the truth. Do not tell us what's the lie. We'll let the audience guess.
Okay. So here are my three. One, the company Suzy is named after a song from my favorite rock band. Two, the company has 5 times as amount of employees now than we did since the start of the pandemic. And 3, we have a very famous football player that's an investor in the company. So 2 of those are truths and 1 of those is a lie.
This is great. This is great. This is great to truth one lie, man. Thanks. That was actually great to record the podcast with you. If you have something to, say, like add on top of that, you're hiring some people looking for new skills, new partner, and you think it's your time. I don't know if you have anything that you want to add.
Sure. So if you want to learn more about Suzy, you can just check out the company at Suzy.com, SUZY.com. And if you want to learn more about me, you can follow me on Twitter at MattyB, MattyB.
Yeah. So people can go on Twitter, message you to guess what's the truth, one lie.
Yeah.
And yeah.
No
Thanks, man.
cheating.
That was amazing.
Thanks
to
so much.
Record that podcast with you. Yeah, all the best for Suzy, and see you in 10 years to see if the vision that you had is there.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to checking this out and following you.
Thank you guys for listening in. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed recording it. Matt actually showed us that in entrepreneurship, you only need 2 things: determination and resilience, And in years of launching product and businesses, ventures, Matt had a lot of trouble, He got problem to raise cash, he got problem with his product, he got problem with his team, clients, everyone. He had to pivot a couple of times. He had a lot of problems, but this guy kept going, And when he spoke about the fact that when he launched the product, when he launched Suzy the first time, nothing was working for months, And like he just kept going, kept building the momentum, keep building the trust with the people around him. That's very important with your investor, with your client, with your team. You keep like showing that you're gonna do it. And people just like believe in you because of your resilience and your determination. And I think that's something very important. Another thing that Matt also showed us, is like, yes, you need to be in love with your product, but the thing is like you need to focus on like what your product is solving on the market. And so much entrepreneur, fall in the trap of like being in love with their product, polishing the product, doing everything, but lose the focus on like what the user, what the people really want, on that market. And I think that's something that Matt is doing super well. He's really focused on like what's the problem that the product is solving on the market. So this is something you guys need to remind. Focus on the problem, not too much on the product. Even if we are here to speak about product, we need to focus on the problem. And as usual, if you guys like this episode, and even if you did not like, don't hesitate to give a rating, give a feedback. It helps me to improve the show and bring you more valuable content every week. Thank you guys, and see you next week for the next episode.